God put you here, then this is the default. And then if God says, love your country, then this is where he wants you to be, right? And therefore, the next point is to move requires a calling. Okay, calling means why would God? So I would challenge any, it's just my personal choice, right? Yeah, right? And I would challenge any, I can serve God anywhere. Because the question isn't where can you serve God, right? The question is, where does God want you to serve? Right? So when you say personal choice, then there's a discipleship problem. Okay? When you say, I can serve God anywhere, that is begging the question. Because the question is, before God, where does he want you to be to serve him? And then, so the third point is, show me your calling. But of course, you're not answerable to me, right? But you must, before God, be able to discern a calling. So Abraham moved only because he was called. I'm not asking the question, should you study overseas? You know, that's okay. Yeah. But sometimes the calling goes further than that. So, you know, God called me to be a nuclear scientist, and the only place I can be is not in Malaysia. But then I would put that into the calling already, right? Right? If God calls you in that direction to do this work in the world, which is nuclear scientist, then of course, if God calls you a nuclear scientist, he's calling you not to be in Malaysia already because here tada. Where would you be needed for God's kingdom in the world around? When you go through that process, then I would say, I have to say it's between you and God, okay? But don't buy the cheap answers. Okay, I can serve God anywhere is begging the question, right? The last one is even worse, it's a methodology. I'm going to apply to migrate to Australia, right? Nobody applies to migrate to Mongolia, okay? I'm going to apply to migrate to Australia, and if God doesn't want me to go, he will close the door, okay? I will also not be happy with that answer. Again, not because you're answerable to me, we're just having a conversation. How do we discern God's call, okay? Therefore, we finally come to this question about you and God telling where he wants you to be, right? Now, it becomes more difficult when you are in Myanmar, when you're in Afghanistan, right? And you are in a persecution situation, okay? It becomes more tricky in terms of, because like we know in the Acts example, right? When the church was persecuted, they were scattered, right? And then God used that scattering. So I can imagine where it becomes not tenable to be in a country where it's under persecution. So I would call that difficult circumstances that may come into play in deciding. You are of legal age not to have to follow your parents' wishes, okay? But more like, to me, I know this is really, really dicey, but it's something like, Dad, if you're a disciple of Christ, I'm a disciple of Christ, let's make this a discipleship question. So you're saying discipleship for me is different from my discipleship for my child. He should be in a better place where he doesn't have to face all these problems. Then I'm asking, what kind of discipleship are you giving a spiritual legacy to your children? How do you reflect discipleship in that question? Yeah, other than, won't I want the best for my kid? Then my question would be, isn't the best for your kid where God wants him to be? Kerajaanmu di bumi Malaysia.